Welcome to another episode of Meal Prep Monday. I'm your host, Allison Schaaf, and today I'm talking about the Oura ring. Before we dive into that, if you have not tried our time-saving meal prep meal plans, you can head to prepdish.com/mpm. Let us plan dinner for you for the next few weeks. We will give you an organized grocery list, meal prep instructions, and more importantly, we will help make dinner time quick and easy. You won't even have to think about it, and it will be healthy, tasty meals that your whole family will enjoy. If you want to try it out, again, prepdish.com/mpm. Okay, so today's episode on the Oura ring. This is something I think I've had mine, it must be just under a year. I'm pretty sure I asked for it for Christmas from my husband. I think that was my gift this past year. And I don't remember exactly if there was like a specific thing I was after when I got it. I had a few friends that had one and was interested. I mean, I am always interested in kind of seeing numbers and tracking things. And, I'm a little competitive by nature. So a lot of what it involves is attractive to me, but I have really grown to love and I guess you use it because you wear it, but, just really like leaned on it a lot. And it's improved a lot of, healthy habits for me in a pretty significant way. So I thought I would hop on an episode and just talk about my experience. So first of all, what is the Oura ring? It's a ring that you wear on your finger, and it tracks different, different data. Main categories are, fitness, sleep, and kind of things related to those two. And within that, there's a lot of, different numbers. So I thought I would walk through some of the features that I use and how those features have kind of made a positive impact on my life. So the first one I will talk about is sleep. Sleep's something I think I'm going to talk about more in upcoming episodes as well. I recently read a book on sleep that got me even more motivated. I definitely have been more interested in learning about sleep, improving my sleep, just because of having kids, and specifically a second child who has not been the best sleeper in terms of sleeping through the night. And so that's left me not always sleeping through the night. And I am someone who, even I can remember back, in college or whatever it was, I'd always kind of like count my hours of sleep in my head and be like, okay, I got my 8 hours, I'm good. But I always knew that I needed a certain amount of sleep each night. And I've always been protective of that. There were plenty of times, especially in my 20s, like, I'd have late nights or I'd stay up all night, but then I'd always make sure the next night, which in the book, they say this is not really possible to, catch up on sleep on a future night. But, I would do that. Right. And I was very aware of it and very kind of protective over my sleep. And then, becoming a mom, it's like you lose control of a lot of that. Right. So having this marker, it's helped me. I think some people can make the argument it could go both ways, right? Like you could become more stressed. And there's certainly nights when it has done that, because I've seen the numbers are even lower than I thought. And so it feels a little defeating. But when you look at your sleep, it will not only give you your, kind of time spent to sleep, it'll actually distinguish. And I feel like, let me take a step back first, because on some of the boards and, chatter around this, some people will say it's not as accurate as they feel like it could be. I feel like for me, it is pretty accurate. Like it seems to sort of align with how I feel like I did, or like when I actually felt like I was asleep. So it'll give me a number of the hours spent in bed versus the total time asleep. And okay, I'm trying not to go too deep into sleep, but sometimes some of the research into sleep, they're actually sometimes looking at total time in bed and sometimes looking at total time spent sleeping, because unless they have you hooked up, they don't really have a way to track sleep time versus time in bed. So both of those numbers can be important. Like maybe if you think you're getting 8.5 hours of sleep, you're really like an 8 hours of sleep a night person, because all of that time in bed isn't asleep. Anyway, so it gives you those numbers. And then things like resting heart rate, HRV, which is heart rate variability. And the cool thing is when you have all these numbers and you start tracking them over time, you can link them to what things are going on in your life that's impacting your sleep. Are there things like, so eating late at night, does that impact your sleep? Alcohol, how does that impact your sleep? Even something like, this kind of prompted me to switch my workouts to earlier in the day, especially if I'm doing heavy lifting and strength training. I've found that I notice a slight, less sleep score. And they say sometimes that happens and, that's fine. That means you're pushing your body to, improve its fitness. But I do think I get better sleep now if I do my workouts even earlier in the day than what I was doing, which was kind of late afternoon in the past. It'll give you your deep sleep versus your REM sleep, both of which are very important. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else on there. It also gives a lot of trending data. So you can look, so not only can you see your day to day, but to me, especially now that I've had it for several months, I can look and see which months did I have really poor sleep versus others, and kind of see my trending data. Like, is it trending better or worse? And I've noticed on scores like heart rate and heart rate variability, over time, those have both improved just because I've become more aware of them and kind of subtly played around with improving those scores. And so there's a little chart that you can look at, and it's not a complete, downward line. It definitely has its ups and downs on the months, but you can kind of look back and be like, oh, was I sick a lot that month? Was I traveling? What was going on? 1 month I started meditating a lot more and I noticed my numbers were a lot better. So it's really kind of cool to see the patterns and kind of look into how you're doing with sleep. It gives you a score as well, which is helpful. Although I've looked into what goes into that algorithm and all that, but sometimes it feels like it's not quite weighted in the way I would weight it. So I look at the scores, but I try not to get too hung up on those, especially they give you a readiness score, which is kind of how much energy they predict you're going to have for the day based on things like how much activity you've been doing and your sleep. And the readiness score is the harder one to improve, at least for me, versus the sleep score. But I do find, so kind of the summary on the sleep is I definitely make sleep more of a priority, and especially quality sleep, in a way that I hadn't before. Or I don't know. It just kind of forces you to look at it differently. Another interesting thing that it tracks throughout the day is restorative time. This is a really hard one for me to get because it's times when your heart rate really lowers. And even if I'm reading a book or, meditating, I'm not usually meditating for more than 20 minutes. So maybe I don't really relax fully. It doesn't usually say I've had restorative time. I've honestly found the main thing that gives me a restorative time is watching TV. So that, and then sometimes time in a car, especially if I'm not driving and my husband's driving, because we live an hour from town, sometimes that will clock as being restorative time. That's kind of been an interesting one. But again, I feel like I will do restorative things throughout the day and they don't always clock. So I've played around with that a little bit. The activity one is another one that I really like. I've always been active. I'm pretty motivated to just be active for the sake of being active because I know, I guess intuitively, that, it gives me more energy. If I go for a walk every day, my mind feels better. I'm happier. I've just kind of learned over time, I have to get outside every day and go for a walk. That's just part of my maintenance. And, I don't know that I need the app to tell me that, but I have noticed, especially in the beginning, if my numbers weren't to the goal that it set for me, and I think I just set my goals as, basically maintaining an active lifestyle, nothing trying to go above and beyond. But I will, if I see that the numbers that I've been sitting for a lot during the day, that it does kind of motivate me to fit in a little more activity, throughout the day, or get in a little more movement, or the next day figure out, oh, maybe I should increase my walk by a few more minutes. So, and it also will so you can log different activities, but it will signal if it thinks that you had a workout. So if I go on a walk and don't log, it'll say, oh, we detected a walk from this time to this time. And, I'll confirm it. One thing I have noticed is either just being with the kids or just like doing heavy housework, like running around, like doing the dishes, like all of that stuff, a lot of times it will detect that I've done something like a HIIT workout. So I find that pretty entertaining, that just being with my children is like a HIIT workout. So in some ways, I think that's validating. So if any of you are moms out there, then maybe just being able to be like, oh, I didn't fit in on a workout today, but 30 minutes playing with my kids, and, that's got to count for something. And the ring definitely validates that. A few other things. So it will do your body temperature, which is interesting for a few reasons. One, if you're sick, it'll kind of track that. So I got sick in the spring, and, sometimes you feel warm, and, you don't always have I was traveling, so I didn't have a thermometer, but like, oh, my ring logged that I did spike a fever last night. So, it's interesting that it does that for you. It also is good for tracking your cycles. You can connect it to natural cycles. If any of you are basal body temperature, BBT trackers, it'll link to natural cycles and kind of do that automatically for you. And the temperatures are so much more accurate, or I don't know if accurate's not the right word. Is it specificity? I don't know. But because they're doing it kind of throughout the night, these temperatures, is a super fascinating to me. And this is a little off topic for, Meal Prep Monday. This is more into my brain of, Miscarriage Hope Desk, which is my other business. And that's why I've gotten really deep into this. But there is a research study, I don't know if it's been published yet, but you can find the draft online, where they looked at Oura ring users who became pregnant. And they found that the Oura ring actually detects pregnancy, like on average, is it a week before a pregnancy test? Because of the body temperature, there's a rise in body temperature, like a 1 degree rise. And it's kind of sensitive. You don't even track that. Like if you're doing your BBT temperature, orally, it doesn't track that rise. But this, because it's done like throughout the night, or I don't know if it's location, but for whatever reason, it's kind of more specific. And there's a very, noticeable increase. And people are able to detect pregnancy much sooner, which, again, more from, maybe even like from the miscarriage standpoint, if someone knows they're pregnant sooner, they can go, and if that's their history, they can go in sooner. So to me, that's a very exciting, potential use for the future, as it could help women with earlier intervention and hopefully earlier, prevention of miscarriage. So that's very exciting to me, just with my other business in mind. Oh, one other thing that I wanted to mention, there are some like guided meditations on the ring that you can use as well. And you can like show your heart rate during meditation. I don't usually do that. I kind of like to like not have I don't know. I haven't messed around with that during meditations as much, but that's a nice feature that I know some people like to use as well. Gosh, I mean, there's so much more I could go into. And as I was preparing for this episode, I thought maybe people that don't have the Oura ring will listen to it, but I'm guessing that the people that are going to listen are the people that already have an Oura ring. I have a few, actually multiple friends that have Oura rings. And I feel like once you have one, you kind of get it. But if you don't have one, it's probably not as interesting to you. So hopefully, even if you don't have one, you stuck with me. And I'd be happy to talk about this more if you want to connect with me on Instagram or something. This is definitely one of those things that really gets me jazzed up. It's just been a lot of fun for me to have. And I feel like it, like I said, it definitely just, is another thing that helps me be healthier and happier, which again is the goal of this, of this podcast, is to, talk about different strategies for healthier, happier lives. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have not given us a rating or a review, I always appreciate seeing those in whatever podcast app you are using. They definitely help more people to find our podcast. And if you have not tried the Prep Dish meal plans, you can just send a quick text to 33777. So that's the number you put in, is 33777. And then you're going to use the word meal prep, all one word. And then we'll text you back, ask for your email. You put that in. We'll email you a 1-week plan. You can try it out and see what you think. Okay, that's all I have for this week. I will be back next Monday.